The I don't know whether this is a maritime disaster or the opening scene of a very slow global thriller. The Russian captain, a US linked oil tanker, a collision at sea. It's enough to send certain corners of the internet into a conspiracy laden meltdown, isn't it? Was this a calculated act of aggression, a piece of Kremlin mischief making in the choppy waters of the North Sea, or is it, as more likely, a problem with vodka, a problem with autopilot, basic human error that has conspired to turn a routine crossing into a full-blown crisis? And you've got to remember, in all of this speculation, somebody seems to have died. On Monday, the Portuguese-flagged ship Solong ploughed into the US-registered tanker Stena Immaculate, which happened to be carrying 220,000 barrels of aviation fuel. The resulting fireball was spectacular enough to make even Michael Bay envious. As the flames engulfed the vessels, 36 crew members were evacuated. One unfortunate mariner went missing, now presumed dead, and an immediate investigation has been launched. And the British authorities have since arrested the 59-year-old Russian captain of the Solong on suspicion of gross negligence and manslaughter. And his extended detention has only fueled speculation about whether his was an orchestrated act of aggression or merely an accident of epic proportions. For those inclined to see the ghost of KGB plots in every Russian action, the collision is nothing short of an act of war. A US-linked oil tanker struck while anchored, a Russian captain at the helm of the offending vessel. The internet predictably has been ablaze, with theories that the Solong was deliberately sent to disrupt NATO supply lines, challenge Western dominance at sea, and even test British response times. And this theory has some powerful proponents, including the ever-watchful US Coast Guard, which has refused to rule out foul play. It's also suggested that the Stena Immaculate might have been running with its radar silent for security reasons, making it invisible to the Solong until the moment of impact. And the problem with this theory, well, the UK government has itself played that down, with the Transport Minister Mike Kane bluntly saying there is no evidence to suggest that at the moment. And our own border forces seem very reluctant to speculate about some sort of international plan, some sort of international plot. The far more mundane and infinitely more believable explanation is that human fallibility, possibly aided by alcohol, was at play. The Solong was reportedly travelling at 16 knots, straight towards the Stena Immaculate, without any apparent attempt to adjust course. And maritime safety experts have been scratching their heads, pointing out that the two modern vessels, both equipped with advanced radar and warning systems, should never have been able to collide under normal circumstances. And theories abound. Was the captain asleep? Was he drunk? Did someone forget to disengage autopilot? All seem more likely than a calculated Russian naval offensive. And given the post-accident procedures typically include precautionary drug and alcohol testing, we may soon have a clearer picture of whether liquor played a role in this maritime disaster. And beyond the political speculation, the real concern is the environmental impact. The Stena Immaculate was carrying Jet A1 fuel, a highly toxic substance that, if spilled in large quantities, could wreak havoc on marine life. Unfortunately, initial reports suggest that while at least one cargo hold was compromised, there's been no significant pollution so far. The UK Coast Guard remains on high alert, and aerial surveillance continues to monitor for any leaks. But what are the economic consequences? The collision occurred near key marine protected areas and prime fishing waters. If the situation worsens and stuff spills into the sea, into these zones, we could be looking at not just an environmental headache, but a financial one for the British fishing industry, already battered by Brexit and changing quotas. Authorities will be pulling data from both vessels' black box recorders to reconstruct the sequence of events. And if the Solong was indeed on autopilot, this would explain the ship's baffling failure to avoid a collision. If the captain was impaired, his fate will likely be sealed in a British courtroom. If, against all odds, there is some genuine evidence of sabotage, then we may have just witnessed the most poorly executed Russian naval assault in history. For now, Starmer has stated that the situation is reasonably contained, a delightfully British way of saying we don't actually know what's going on yet, but please don't panic. And so the question about whether or not this was Russian aggression, I think despite all the internet speculation, it's unlikely. The far greater possibility is that the Solong had an inattentive crew, an absent captain, an unfortunate technical failure. But this is the North Sea, a place where history, politics, and maritime disasters frequently collide. And whatever the verdict, whatever the final verdict, one thing is clear: human error remains the most dangerous force at sea.